Gentlemen, this is a rare honor. Thank you all for coming in and for being on the line.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you,
us.
thank you.
So, I'm going to start with you, Laz. Without giving too much away, the movie starts with an older veteran watching a war movie, and he complains in the course of watching that he's not seeing people like himself represented, black people being represented. What does that scene say to you?
Well, for me, it started off, with knowing that these characters were actually real living souls. They were real people who experienced this at one time. James McBride actually used to be best friends with and rode the train with every day with the character who I portray was based on. So to know that these same exact words weren't something that came out of someone's figment of their imagination, but they were direct quotes from James's interviews with these veterans, it really just put the level of responsibility on portraying these characters into a whole different place for me. And knowing that these feelings that I was expressing during that scene were actually felt by this person who never got to see this movie made, never got to see the fruit of James's labor put onto paper. To me, it just was doing honor to the service that he did for us and for this country.
All right, this grumpy older veteran is you in makeup.
Yes.
How do you think you looked?
The guy that did the makeup, I give him all the credit in the world. Those guys they're amazing. They actually have won a couple of Oscars. They did Al Pacino's makeup in The Godfather 3. So I figured if it was good for Al, then it's good for me.
I didn't
I'll take it.
recognize you. I was like, huh? I was like, did I miss something?
Yeah, a lot of people say that. For me, the day that Spike told me I had the role, that was my next question. I was like, so who's going to play me as an older man? And when he told me that it was going to be me and that I had to really bring my chops to the table, to me, you just don't get opportunities like this every day to show that kind of range.
Derek, tell me about your character and his relationship to power and how it changes over the time that he is there in Italy.
Sure. I play my character, Staff Sergeant Aubrey Stamps, and I'm part of the four that gets separated from our regiment, and I think part of the power is and to answer your question, is having a scope or a vision for the future. I think that Stamps felt like, we couldn't continue like this, the way the country was and the political climate, the racial climate, that it couldn't continue. Maybe he was a fan of, I don't know who was mentoring at that time, but I just felt like he was looking into the future, and a lot of what he said from his heart was like, I believe change is inevitable, and that got me excited, and that's why I related to the film, because, even in real life, there's a lot of obstacles, but you got to believe against, what's present, to be a victor.
Do you think he was criticized by some people as being, your character that is, as being too deferential to the white commanders? Give me a sense of his complexity.
Give you a sense of Staff's complexity. I think Stamps represents, even in present day, he represents a different way of thinking. Some people feel like, if there's fire or force coming against you, you shoot back. But I think, again, Stamps had a very intellectual or a visionary scope of the future. In describing Stamps a little bit more, in the film and during the 1944, my character, he was one of the few that was not drafted but enlisted and had a college degree. So education played a whole lot on his plate. And when I grew up, some of the two different minds was people that were educated and then who wasn't educated. So I like to look at it like that. It wasn't really that he was just a black man, but you know what I'm saying? It's a different school of thumb. It's, education versus maybe street smart or what's inevitable.
Moving on to you, Omar. Your character is special, and special in many ways. Special spiritually, special intellectually, special temperamentally. And one of the things that Train does is, and this is, of course, incredibly pivotal to the whole story, is takes responsibility for a young boy, a young Italian boy who he can't even speak the same language with. What was it like playing someone who had that kind of a heart?
I don't know. It was very refreshing, I'd say, because, you know, in contrast with, say, Michael Ealy, who played Bishop, who's not here, he always speaks about how playing Bishop was devilish. And in that sense, he had to give in to that to a certain degree. For me, playing Train was angelic in a way. And, I mean, you can ask the fellas. There was a lot of activities that I'm involved in my day-to-day life that I wasn't involved in when we were shooting the film, based on my dedication to try to keep the innocence about this man who's almost like a man-child, because he's actually concerned with others' well-being, regardless of whether they treat him well or whether they don't treat him well, whether he speaks the same language as them, whether he doesn't speak the same language as them. This child represents everything that could be in life, the potential of positivity. And that's how he's living his life, in this righteous sort of way. And so, that's the angle I put on it.
By the way, here comes a pound.
Oh, that's right, across the
And-
table.
And you want to hear an audio?
I love it. So a lot of folks will say, oh, that's the guy from 8 Mile. What's it like to play a wide range of characters? What does it do for you as an actor?
Oh, it's great. Creatively, I mean, just like Laz said earlier, you don't get these kind of opportunities every time you go out to work. Hollywood has a tendency to want to put you in the box, whatever box that may be. For Derek, it's probably the young hunk. For Laz, it's the feisty Latino, or you know what I'm saying. Whatever silly stereotype that Hollywood has for you. Yet and still, we all have to work, so we all have our bills that we have to pay, and this and the other. So when I get to go in and I get to play someone like Train, who's fresh and childlike and righteous and spiritual, versus a slick talker like Saul, who's cussing and talking about getting all the in 8 Mile, it's great because it keeps me fresh. It keeps me sharp.
And what was it like working with Spike Lee, who, he has innovated in his film style, and, over time he has done all these different genres of comedy and social criticism. Now his first war movie. James, and then I'll ask you, other gentlemen, what was it like to work with him?
Well, for me, it was great. I mean, Spike is very demanding. But Spike also saw early on that this isn't really just a war movie. It's really a movie about friendship and about the commonalities that we have as people. And what he did with me was he gave me a wide palette. He gave me a wide plate and just let me exercise my ability. And I suspect the actors have had that same experience.
I see a lot of head nodding, a little chuckling.
And a long-distance pound to James.
Omar, did you feel like you were ever pushed to your limits as an actor, whether it was the demands of the director or, the physical demands must have been considerable too?
I was pushed to the limit before we even started shooting because I had to lose 60 pounds to play the role, to play a soldier. And the movie that I shot right before, I was a burly football player. And then to play a soldier, I had to tighten up. But I couldn't agree with James more. Spike has a great muscle where his first AD, Big Mike, he told me, he said, you know what? One of the best talents that Spike has is being able to know what everybody can do, so that when you have the role, take confidence in the fact that you are the right person for the role. And I think that, between Spike and the other individuals who are in this room and Michael not being here, we all pushed each other to take it to the next level because we're all competitive individuals. And I loved it. I'll work on a set like this every day of the week.